Greetings, Coach Ori here to talk through the 4-2 rotation, which is a nice basic volleyball rotation where we have two setters on the court at all times, and whenever that setter is in the front row, they are the setter for the team. So some basic ideas here. It's named a 4-2 because there are 4 eligible hitters and the 2 setters. If you are in the front row, you will always start in rotation, but you'll always move to your preferred spot, whether that's an outside, middle, or setter position. This is a modified 4-2 rotation because we typically do not switch the back row. When your team is serving, we typically move immediately when the serve is struck. As soon as you hear that hit, you immediately move into your preferred spot. However, when we are receiving serve, we need to first focus on returning the serve, with the front row being off the net, for example. And then after we successfully return the serve, then we can move into our preferred spot. In general, players always shift to avoid large open spaces created usually by the setter moving into a position. And so always be aware of the open spaces and fill those spaces. And even more important than anything we go over is that communication and flexibility are always important. Communicating with your teammates about where you're going and helping fill in those open spaces. So this is rotation 1, and this is a rotation where we have the setters starting opposite each other. And this is pretty basic because the front row, you'll notice, is already in the positions they want to be. Outside hitters outside, middle's in the middle, and the setter is close to the middle. It's not actually all the way down at the bottom like you might think. They're close to the middle. So all that happens in this rotation is when the outside hitter is serving, they serve and then just fill in that gap. And it's the same rotation when we're serve receiving. So you notice the outside hitter is more in a position to help the team receive the serve, and so are the other outside and middle hitters. The setter is already still in position, so that's great, and we're ready to receive a serve. And after we get the ball back over the net, then the outside and middle hitters will go just straight up to the net to help block the other team's attack. Rotation 2 is where it starts getting a little crazier looking. So we have our setter serving, which means the opposite setter is in the totally wrong spot. So after they hear the serve, we need to go to our home spots. So the setter moves to the setter spot, outside hitter moves, and typically we all stack around the middle hitter because the middle hitter is the most important blocker. It's usually our tallest player and our best blocker. So we kind of worry about them staying there. The setter will move down into position, the outside hitter will move into position as the ball is being served, and that other setter, of course, after they serve is going to fill in that big gap there. This is probably the hardest rotation when we are receiving serves, and depending on how we're feeling, we might move these outside and middle hitters, shift them down a little bit towards the other side of the court. But in general, the setter is moving right away, even as the ball is being served from the other team. They're moving, sprinting into position, and the outside and middle hitters are getting ready for a hopeful attack. The setter, the outside, and the middle in the back row are in their kind of normal serve receive position. The outside and middle hitters are also ready to help receive a serve if necessary. And again, you're trying to pass to that setter spot. There's a lot of running around, and the setter needs to be fast in that rotation. And the last rotation, we have the setters in the middle here. So the setter just needs to just kind of take a step or two that way, while the outside hitter kind of sprints over to their position. The middle server is technically serving here. They just need to fill in that gap like they always do. And finally, to receive serve in that same position, again, the setters just kind of sneak into their little position there. And after we successfully return the serve, the outside hitter goes to their position and the middle hitter goes to their position. This serve receive kind of resembles a Christmas tree. So that is pretty much all there is to our 4-2 modified volleyball rotation. Again, the main idea is we always have to start in our rotation by rule, but we always try to move to our preferred spots, especially when we're in the front row. There are many finer points that we did not discuss, such as how to stack and who goes in front of who and all of that. But that can be easily remedied just with clear communication with each other when you're on the court. And we have the beginnings of a basic rotation, which we will hopefully master and move on to beautifully complex alternatives in the future.